Hearing you talk about 8 billion people sharing your work and then thinking that some of those people might have wanted to hire you, or even if like we got like even a cent for every person, your life would be way different.
This is a little bit of a reunion for us. I'm so glad to see you here. Adobe always brings us together. I think the last time we saw each other was also at an Adobe event, right?
Yeah, it was in March, I think, at the Adobe Video Community Summit.
Yes, and we learned a lot of cool stuff there that I'm sure is coming soon. Since this series is all about how you made it, today we're gonna be talking about our creative paths, swap some stories, give people some tips from everything that we've learned along the way. And we're gonna tell them about this new tool, which you put me onto, the Adobe Content Authenticity tool. So for those who don't know, we met in college.
Yes.
A lot of people may not know.
I would say almost no one knows.
Maybe only you and I.
We met in the mean streets of Gainesville, Florida, at the University of Florida.
That's right.
But specifically at our student paper.
So cute.
Back in the day, we used to publish like 5 days a week. So I'd see you Sunday through Thursday night from like 9 p.m. to midnight.
Yeah, and sometimes you weren't there and I was waiting for you, waiting for those files, waiting to get that newspaper done, saved. You know?
I think this is time for me to publicly apologize for how long it took us to get you those photos sometimes.
It was everyone.
Yeah.
It was everyone, to be fair. And it was always so fun seeing how like the paper got put out every day. I feel like we worked so much in print, which is so crazy because I feel like now all of our work is digital for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, for me, that experience was super helpful because sometimes it's great to be really precious about my work. I think working in the paper really taught me like, sometimes like it's just the photo is the photo. Like it's a meeting or it's this other thing, and like journalism sometimes is just about getting the information across and not always the most stunning thing. So that was really helpful. And then sometimes we'd like shoot it, get it, and then it would look different in the layout. And I thought it was really cool to see how you guys did that on your team.
Yeah, we always had to make adjustments to make sure everyone's like work fit in there. What have you been working on lately? It's been a long time since we were working at the paper.
Yeah, it's been 40 years and 40 nights. No, it's funny. So like, I graduated and I was really excited. I thought I was gonna be a photojournalist. And I remember I was interning at the Gainesville Sun. And that summer, my favorite photographer there, we were like photographing on the river, this like crew competition. And he turned to me when we were driving out, we were wet. And he was like, don't do this job. he was like,
turn around.
He's like, you're talented and like you should leave and try to figure something out. And I'm really thankful for that. Like, there's been a lot of kind people in my life, and he like kind of put me on a path to think about like, you know, what inspired me to get into work, which is like movies and filmmaking, and that's really informed my photography. So now in year, whatever it is, I've been spending a lot of time like making shorts and movies, and I think the last year I'm doing like a ton of social videos that are cool because they're kind of a mix of like something cinematic, but also like getting directly to the point. What have you been working on?
I've been working on a lot of my new mini prints. I have these mini print vending machines, and I make them all digitally, right? I use Adobe Fresco like all day and night for that. But then I get them printed, and it has been so fun to finally go from like digital only work to physical work, and then have it also be like so attached or like in tune with the community. Because usually when I just post like my final illustration work on social media, it's like whatever happens, happens. But actually seeing people interact with it, collect it, just like be excited to just like hold it has been so new for me. And I was definitely inspired by the city itself, right? I just wanted to make something cool for Philly, from Philly. And just like my artistic take on the city, and then share it with people. It has been so fun. And yeah, now my office looks like I collect trading cards of my own work, which is so nice compared to just like files on a hard drive, which is most of it, to be honest.
You ever feel like we just finish projects now because it's digital and you're like, okay.
Goodbye.
But there's like no finish to it. So I think that's really cool. I'm looking forward to getting down and seeing one or collecting some.
One thing that I've always really loved about how you work is you're super passionate. You're always telling these stories that I know you like fully back. And I know you naturally gravitate to those like passion-led projects, but at what point did you feel like you had to actually turn it into like a business? Was that ever like a battle to balance passion and business.
So one blessing of us going to the journalism school is that most people we graduated with, if they got jobs, were getting paid like no money. And so I think at first I was just like, oh my gosh, someone wants to pay me? Like any amount of money, you're like, oh, this is great. And then I think I had an internship where I like had to work a lot of hours and was traveling a lot, bringing a lot of things for this internship. And I started to realize like, oh, this is like, my time is expensive. It was like kind of a weird transition. I remember I was like taking a cab back late. Like it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd worked all day. And I was like, I'm tired and hungry. I'm like, I have to edit. Like this is bad. And I think it was just like the realization that like, even if I enjoy doing this, if I'm not getting paid anything for it, like I'm gonna kind of get stuck in a loop if I'm not gonna be able to make the things I wanna make. And so it was kind of a slow transition, but I've gotten a lot better about like making sure my contracts are clear and like being really like, hey, this isn't going to work for me for this reason, and just trying to get on the same page. Because I think sometimes without realizing it, like for me, if I don't do that, like the business stuff will interrupt the work, and that's not cool, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with what you're saying. I feel like even though it's fun, after a long day, it's still work. And you want to make sure that like what hits your bank account is still like feels good for the amount of work that you actually put into it. So it's definitely been a balance, because at first you want to take on anything that's like fun and exciting. And then like you're like, it's 3 a.m., I still have to do this. Like, why did I choose this? For me, it was similar of like realizing, oh, the work that I'm handing over actually has a lot of value for this company or this organization. And for me, a key thing was realizing I was leaving a ton of my rights on the table because I just didn't think it was important.
Yeah.
Because I was like, who really cares? But actually, those are like, you know, line items that I can charge for. And when I realized that, I was like, wait a minute. I can be charging a lot more, and maybe I don't have to be taking on so many small projects if I can take on like bigger, beefier projects that I still love to do, but kind of balance out that workload.
Dude, it's such a weird balance because like my accountant calls it, he's like always yelling at me about having too much scarcity mindset, where he's like, I need you sometimes to like make a decision based on what you believe your well-being is and not like what like some fear you have in the future. Because he's like, I think sometimes you'll make decisions because you think like, what if the worst possible case happens? I need to make sure I'm prepped. And he's like, but if you are your business and you burn yourself out, then what happens? Ooh. And like, yeah, right? That's super helpful. So I totally feel you on the like, yeah, I want to take everything that's possible, but it's also like, we have like family members and like, we should sleep. So one other thing, like talking about work, when I did an Adobe residency, I had a chance to like pick a mentor, and I picked this guy, Jason Harper. He's an incredible director. I love being around Jason. It's just so lovely to work with someone like so kind and patient. And he said this thing to me years ago I always think about, where he's like, a lot of artists think they're being hired for art, but they're actually being hired for their craft. So he's like, it's the craft for him of like being able to shoot, edit, direct this thing in the course of a day. He's like, to be able to distill like a story for a brand quickly and be able to move fast. And it's not always like, then it needs to be stunning or it needs to be like the most emotional thing, but just the craft of creating the thing. And like that was such a helpful thing for me to start to think about how my work is, because there's a lot of stuff, you know this, I'm sure same, like everything you make, are you posting online?
Right. No.
Yeah, because like it's like a healthcare thing or like something, and even like sometimes I'll do headshots for people. I don't really do as much anymore, but like people will just, it's the craft of they believe that I can help them get to their best self. And that's been really helpful for me to just understand like the art sometimes comes out of the craft, but the craft is the thing that I'm being paid for, and I should like embrace that because that's part of the work. And I think it makes it look a little less like emotionally stressful for me, you know?
Not every project you take on has to be like the next artistic like vision for you. It can just be about this, like you're really good at your craft and they want to hire you for that work.
As much as I love getting advice on the internet, the best lessons are the ones that you learn painfully. And so you were talking about your rights. Like I remember a couple years ago, I reverse Google image searched some of my work and like early Instagram stuff, and it was everywhere. Like there were stock websites where people were selling it.
Oh no,
so
it's so discouraging.
Dude,
right?
I did a teaching thing for Lightroom years ago, and someone had ripped it all and put it on their own YouTube. I like found it on accident, and I was like,
You're like, what are you doing? Do you even go here? Like, what are you doing?
But it's a bummer because then you're like, Sometimes it makes you, it's bad because it makes you second guess yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Are you ever worried about putting like a full size of your work out because you're worried like someone might steal it?
Yeah, I'm always like aware that someone could steal it if I put out like a super high res version. I feel like since I mostly share my work on Instagram, like I don't put out super high res versions, but it's still there. Like if somebody really wants to, they could lift it in some way.
Yeah.
I've definitely had people comment like, tag their friend, like, I'm gonna print this. Like, can you, like, I'm gonna print this as your card. I was
That's
like,
crazy.
what do you, right here. But, you know, with the internet, it feels like it's not a part of you anymore, right? People don't see it as your work, even if it's on your own Instagram. They see it as something like that they're consuming sometimes, regardless of who put it out. And I can't believe you reverse Google image searched your work. That takes a lot of guts.
Well,
Because like, you know something's gonna come up.
Oh yeah, well, okay, so this is what happened. I did an interview, it was like my first year in New York, second year, it was the first time it was like a photo blog, like back when we cared about blogs in 2014. They did like a feature a week, so they did like a feature about me. So there's a couple pieces of work in there, and they were like, oh, we want them high res, so we can put them on this Tumblr blog. And then Rip City, baby, which is not a reference to Portland, we love Portland. But people did rip the work, and it was such a bummer. Because like, I remember I tried to take it down, and people, whenever they saw it, people would like text me or like put it on my Facebook wall, I remember we care about that, and be like, oh, look where it is. And it would just be so overwhelming. But it's interesting you were saying like people, I think all of us are like this. We're consuming so many things. We've like kind of made a funnel of like the writing we're watching, the films, the reels, the TikToks, the photos, the illustrations are all just like going into a piece of content. So I think like, yeah, I think in some way we're getting more excited about being entertained.
Yeah, because I do think it's like a lot of it is on like the For You page. So you're like, yeah, this is for me. It doesn't matter who put it out. That's irrelevant. It's just about the fact that I enjoy this. And it's must have been really cool to see your work in lots of places, but then at the same time being like, nobody knows that that's my work, or like, thanks for showing me that it's there and I have nothing to do with it. How did you cope with that feeling?
I think on some level I felt really like swept up. I think there's two things. There's like the ego of it, where I think sometimes we purposefully will downplay the work of artists and be like, that's just this or just that, where it's like, you shouldn't overreact when it's like, actually like, we should not steal other people's things. But then there's the finance of it, where you think about it, you're like, oh my gosh, if like 5 people had paid me for this, I could maybe afford to like buy a car when my car was really breaking down, or like save some money, or like any of these things. And it's kind of a troubling balance. But at some point, like I had to make a decision, like, do I want to stop doing things forever, or like, do I have to be kind of okay with it? But like, I think that's almost more small potatoes. I remember like you had a ton of things that you shared on Giphy, and then you said like, I don't know, like millions of people saw it?
Yeah, I made a lot of GIFs. I feel like there was a time on the internet where GIFs were just like everywhere and hot. And as an illustrator, it was so fun to like animate your work, but not too much that it's like a motion picture. So it was like the perfect medium for me, and I loved making them. But as soon as like they started showing up on like Instagram, when there was new integrations and other social media platforms, it quickly just got away from me. Like the work just became something that people use to communicate their emotions, which is fun. Like I like that. I'm happy that I could help, but it's also a bummer when more people are seeing your work than ever without even knowing it's your work. Because I checked the other day and I had 8.2 billion views. But like those,
with like a big B?
With a bit, yeah, with a B. And I was just like, those people have no clue. And only sometimes do I even know it's happening, right? Like I know I've had friends tag me or share me when like Kendall Jenner shared one, or like Selena Gomez, or like a president, but now they have no clue that, you know, I was behind the work. Sometimes when something is really good, this is how I know it's good, right? This is how I know something really...
I hate this already.
Yeah, I know something is really good when people start lifting it. They start just taking it, and however they can, whether it's a screenshot or like, I don't know, they get creative. And sometimes I see it pop up on like random e-commerce websites. I'll see like my artwork from this random thing I did forever ago on a shirt or on some socks. or on like cards and stuff. And I'm just like, wait, hold on. I had no clue anyone was doing this. Most of the time I find it through Google reverse image search. And it's just so annoying to see your work kind of taken from you, monetized without your consent, and you may not even have a clue about it if you didn't like double check. But what, I'm gonna check every day? Like, that's not something I'm interested in doing every day.
Do you know who Akira Toriyama is?
No.
Okay. He is the creator of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball and all the things that come from it. He died, I think, last year, and it was this beautiful moment on the internet where everyone was sharing like the first time they ever saw any of his anime or played Dragon Quest, this game that he did a lot of art for. And it was this really cool moment where people were like, I first saw this anime when I was 7 at my cousin's house. Or this really inspired me to like work harder. I got into bodybuilding because of this thing. And it was this like beautiful moment that like sadly happened upon his death where just everyone was talking about how this art impacted them. And it's funny because like, we seem to only give that to people that we believe have reached a certain level, but the importance of art is very clear, and that like, when I'm hearing from you, like billions of people are sharing your work, that means that they're like, this is expressing something that I can't express for myself. And so I think all of us want that ability, not in our death, but from now to like, have people attribute our work to us and also be able to like understand how they're interacting with it. And like, I don't know, that really inspired me to remind me that like, there's times I make things that really like speak to people, and sometimes I don't. But like in that moment, there's a level of, I don't even know if it's pride, it's like a humbleness washes over me where I'm like, oh my God, like I had no idea this would impact this person in this way. Have you ever made anything like that and someone's like told you?
Yeah, I think like it's really, really special when someone is like, oh, this really resonated with me. And I feel like it's harder to come to that online. When you're just sharing your work online, it's just like, no one's gonna comment. Like, very few people comment earnestly, like, I really connected with this. Like, at best, they're gonna throw you a like and that's it. And you don't really know how much it impacted
They're
someone.
like, fire emoji, fire emoji.
And you're like, okay, I guess that's good. Like, we did it, we did it, I accomplished it. And I feel like now with people not always knowing whose work, where it's coming from, it's hard to feel like your work is actually achieving that and connecting with people when you're not even sure if people realize that they're connecting with your work or just like something that they saw at some moment, right? Versus like with Dragon Ball Z, they knew exactly like what they were connecting with and can attribute it right to that artist. And that's why when he passed, people could be like,
oh, totally.
He had a huge impact on me. Versus when I pass, they won't know.
They might.
The 8.2 billion will have no clue.
Hearing you talk about 8 billion people sharing your work and then thinking that some of those people might have wanted to hire you, or even if like you got like even a cent for every person, your life would be way different. And so I think this is why we started talking about content authenticity, because I got to speak at the Content Authenticity Summit earlier this year, and it was really interesting for me. So Adobe had me come, and I started sharing about my experience of getting my work stolen. This has become such a powerful way for my work to be grounded in who I am, and that's the power of attribution. And it was interesting because I was in a room full of all these like technologists and engineers, and it was really amazing because a lot of people stopped me after to be like, oh man, I'm so excited the tools we're building are going to help people from being able to take your work, and more importantly, help people verify what they're looking at. Like that's kind of how we got onto it. And that's why I wouldn't say I fell in love with it because like technology is technology, but it's become a big part, like content credentials have become a big part of how I'm working, in that I just have to check a box or drop something in to apply, but it's really helpful now, especially when I share things on LinkedIn, to like see people reshare it, see clients reshare it, collaborators, and know like even if someone doesn't notice who like the third post down is from, they can still easily see that the work is mine.
So what exactly are content credentials?
So the way that I learned about it is it's an open standard that any organization or company can use. Kind of think about it like Bluetooth. The idea that like our speakers and headphones and everything can speak to phones or whatever we're playing music out of came from companies being like, these devices should talk to each other. So Adobe and some other companies got together and they were like, we have to figure out how to express digital provenance.
And what does digital provenance mean in this context?
Dude, that's a really good question. I learned it at the summit.
I do think that there is something to be said about credentials or provenance that validate the human energy that was injected into something.
So provenance basically means origin. So when we used to go to galleries, like growing up in South Florida, we'd go and enjoy lots of beautiful art. But even the outdoor art would have a plaque or something that would say like Brito or Matisse or whatever. But because we're online all the time and we're just consuming information so quickly, it can be really difficult to know like where stuff came from. And so the idea is like, how do we get the digital version of this signature, right? And so I think about content credentials like a digital nutrition label for viewers. And then for artists, it's an opportunity for us to get like proper attribution and credit for our work. What was really interesting about the summit was that since I got to speak early, I actually got to pay attention. Sometimes if I speak, especially later in the day, I'm just a bad attendee because I'm really focused on my thing and not actually learning. But that whole day, I was learning about all sorts of stuff. So for example, certain cameras like this Leica, a couple Nikons, the new Google Pixel 10, they have credentials baked in like from the point of capture. So there's like an authenticity to it where you know for sure this was taken with this device in here. But it's not really about the camera, it's about being able to apply the credentials at some point during the process of creation. And in case you're not a photographer or you don't have one of these cameras, you can do it for free using the Adobe Content Authenticity web app or some of the other Adobe apps like Lightroom, Photoshop, or Fresco. I'm talking about it too much, let me just show you. All right, so this is the Content Authenticity web app. What's cool is that it's free. All you need is an Adobe account. You can sign up with any email, don't have to pay anything, and you can start to apply content credentials to your work, which is really cool. So the first thing is you go to preferences, you can verify yourself on LinkedIn. This verifies your name so folks can find you, know who you are, and then you can connect your social media accounts so that people can find your work not only from this single image, but all the way across the web. And then lastly, something I really appreciate is the generative AI training and usage. So this allows you to request that generative AI models don't train or use your content. Right now, only Adobe Firefly respects this, but we're hoping that it continues to grow as an industry standard. If we hit Apply Content Credentials, we'll immediately go to this page that allows us to select a file. And so we can choose one of these images. This is a photo that I took years ago that I was really proud of. Actually ended up on the Apple Instagram. Hit Apply, and it'll apply this digital nutrition label we talked about before. And what's cool is you can actually include up to 50 images. So I can download this, it'll go straight to my download folder. And then if I go over to inspect, I can take that same image out of my download folder, and you'll see that the credentials are applied. When it was recorded, that the invisible watermark is applied, and this information about me. This is what it looked like on LinkedIn. You can see my verified identity that I applied on the web app. And then we're gonna do one more fun thing. We're gonna go over to this. We're gonna screenshot this image just to show how durable the content credentials are. Drop it in. And just like that, we can see that even with the screenshot, the invisible watermark of the credentials are still durable, still there, and showing it so they can survive all sorts of nonsense.
So what if someone tries to apply their content credentials to your work?
It's a bummer, but like we can't really control the actions of other people. And so what I like about content credentials is we can have our verified name and identity, and we can connect our social media accounts as well. So when folks choose to look at the work, inspect it, or they like hover over on LinkedIn, they can see like Fabiola Lara, Fabiola Draws on Instagram, and your other handles that I'm not remembering right now. But it just gives them the opportunity to easily find your work, and just is one less step for the people that are trying to connect with you more and potentially hire you.
How have you seen content credentials in the wild?
So it's rolling out all over the internet, but right now, LinkedIn is the most robust example. And so when I apply content credentials to images and then post it on LinkedIn, even if people repost the work and it's like a repost or repost, when you go to the image, you can see the content credentials right there. And so people can see my verified name and identity, which is really helpful. So we've been talking about like a lot of technical stuff today. And while I think it's really important that we understand how our cameras and everything works, I don't want artists to start thinking that their soft skills aren't super helpful. So I have a couple more chill questions for you that I still think are super important, if that's cool.
Let's do it.
Okay, number one. Do you have like a clear line of delineation between yourself as a content creator and as an artist?
You know, I love this. I love talking about this because I do not. I feel like they are one of the same thing, especially now, like in my opinion, like being a modern day artist, if you want to share your work online, because you don't have to, but if you want to, then I think being a content creator is kind of like a part of it, but it doesn't have to be something that, you don't have to become an influencer fully to be a content creator. So I think everyone can find their like way within it and how to do it in a way that they like.
Did you ever feel any shame around that or like frustration?
Yeah, I think it's always like kind of, I think content creator sometimes gets like a bad rap, the term. So I think embracing it can be a little bit difficult. Artists can be kind of pretentious, and content creators and artists sometimes like seem like divided, but I do think that they play well together if you embrace it.
What are some things that you wish you knew earlier about managing and thriving in a creative industry that you know now?
There are like a million things that I wish I knew earlier, and I feel like you don't know until you're learning kind of on the job, as I'm sure you know. But one of the most important, I think, is to learn to talk about your work. I feel like you really have to be loud kind of about the work that you're putting out there. And that includes reaching out to people and taking that initiative to find those jobs or the people that you could potentially work with, instead of just like waiting around for those opportunities to come to you. So I think that's like the biggest thing I've learned is like, you gotta talk about it.
Was there a specific experience you had that helped you change this, or how did you learn that skill?
I think it's a skill that I'm always kind of working on, because you know, you're always trying to figure out the best way to share your work and like showcase all of your skills. But it's something that just takes practice, and like every little email, every little Slack is like one, you know, leveling up little by little.
Absolutely. A couple of weeks ago, I did a social piece I was directing, and there was this influencer there. Their name is Cirrus. They got really famous for the like bonding with my straight father. Have you seen these? But they were really interesting because we were talking about it at lunch. They were like, I just learned to take up more space.
Yeah.
And this is something like, when I used to work on Kamal's show, he says to me all the time, he's like, yo, Dre, you gotta take up more space, and you have to get used to that. And it's just been such an interesting thing to like prep and get used to, because we've known each other for a while, and I would say like, mentally you're like, oh, like these are extroverts or artists or whatever, but like just the process of being like, I made this thing and I gotta go keep talking about it, or like Tyler the Creator talks about this all the time. It wasn't the Zane Lowe interview he just did, but there's one he had before where he's like, I know plenty of people will work like years on an album and just put it on their Instagram story one time and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, no man, I'm gonna keep talking about it. And I think that's been really helpful, just to remember like it's a part of who we are and what we're making. So I really, really agree with that.
Yeah, you have to like embrace, you have to do it justice, I feel like. Just by putting it out and not talking about it, it's like, it could go so much further.
What do you think is the most impactful lesson you've learned as an artist over the years?
I think one of the most important things I've learned is just to trust your vision. And I'm sure you've had this happen to you in your own projects. It's like, there are a million ways you could approach something, but you really have to trust that the way that you're gonna do it is like right for you and right for the project. So as an illustrator, like, you know, style is so important, the tools you use are so important, and just starting to trust yourself more, that you can pull something off the way you envision, has been like a really big lesson, and something that I carry obviously project to project.
How did you find your visual style in sharing your work? Your carousels and your videos have like a really specific style to them. How did you get to that style?
Practice. I feel like everyone thinks that like the first post that they're gonna post sharing their work is like, that's how they're gonna do it for the rest of their internet career and internet presence. Yeah. But like, as you and I know, there's different social media trends all the time, different platforms popping up all the time. And so the way I approach it is like, how do I want to show it right now? And I try to experiment within that, but I have to repeat it a few times before I just like nix it. So I try to repeat stuff, see how people interact with it, see if there's a better way to present my work. It's really about taste, but also practice.
Last question, how do you develop your taste?
Aundre, that's an impossible question. I feel like taste is innate, right? I feel like some people just have it and some people don't. So I would say most artists have their taste, and it can be developed, I think, by watching like certain shows or taking in certain inspiration and refining your taste, I think is definitely doable. But I think like that's what makes us human, is our individual taste.
It's impossible to really know this, but you got taste and vision, so I'm gonna ask you, what do you think your art's gonna look like going forward or in the future?
Yeah, tech is changing so fast. I feel like with generative AI and content credentials, it's like we're taking it day by day in some sense. But I feel like Overall, what I'm feeling is that it's going to be more and more important to like show the human side of your work. So connecting with people through your work is more important than ever. Make sure that it has credentials, people know who they're connecting to. For example, I put out my mini prints, and originally when I started doing it, I didn't have my name on them because like you said one time when we were talking, like who needs that? It doesn't look great. Like I just want it to be the art. And I was putting these all over the city, and then people started coming up to me being like, "Can you sign it for me?" And then they started DMing me like, "Can you sign like the name on the print itself?" So now I'm signing my name on it right when it's printed, and it's nice to know that people are connecting with the art so much that they want to make sure they know who it's from and like that it's from me. So I feel like that's where I see my work going.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't know, do you know Paul Octavius? He's fascinating. He's an artist out of Chicago. And I remember when Instagram stories first came out, his first post, he was like, "Oh no, all you perfectly curated Instagram people have to be human beings on the internet now."
Yeah.
This is like 2016 or something. But I thought it was such an interesting take on it. And I do think it's interesting. We were talking about yesterday at dinner, like anything that's super overproduced, sometimes audiences don't want to see it because the idea is like they're coming to either like engage with the art or be entertained or like maintain a relationship with you. And so I think you do a really good job of like sharing your humanity and your work throughout, which is cool because like I know you, and then like it's just fun to see like the congruence of like in internet you and real you and like how it's
Yeah, that's always a funny thing. Like internet me is a version of me, but a part of a larger picture, you know what I mean? And I'm sure the same is for you. How do you see like Gen AI and content credentials changing the way you work?
I mean, okay, in my perfect world, this is a way that, because even now, when I'm trying to look at like ads or like what I love doing is I'll save like everything I think is really cool on Pinterest, Instagram, whatever. But sometimes I like can't figure out who the DP was or the photographer or like whatever on these big projects. This would be a really cool way for us to see credited work. And I'd love for agencies, production companies, everyone to start using it so that we can properly like credit everyone, the stylists, the art department people, the creative directors, the photographers, the illustrators, because so much goes into this work, and I think in that process it can help us better celebrate that. And as we attribute to more people, I think there's also a greater argument about maintaining the value of it, because if you want it to look as great and as fantastic as you do, you need time, money, resources. And so I hope that it continues to be a standard, not just by the people that are making the art, but everyone that is consuming it, as well as those that are contributing to it.
That would be beautiful if all the agencies started like requiring this. And I think a big part of it is like as artists, we can demand it, right? We can demand it from these places because we want to make sure our name sticks to the stuff that we make. So I have high hopes.
I think it'd be really cool because if I see your work, I know it's your work, but there are people that'll walk by and be like, "That's really rad."
They just don't even know.
And it could be something as small as like wanting to just buy a print of yours, or something as large as like, "I want you to illustrate my child's bedroom," or like, "I want to do these things." And it starts with having the ability for us to get all this information in the information age and be able to properly attribute it. So thank you for taking time to sit down. I'm so happy we have to hang out here and really talk about the future of work. And I think it's cool that we're talking about it as people that are friends, but also two artists. Let's not wait 6 months to do it again.
I'm positive I will see you at the next Adobe event and we'll continue this conversation.
Beautiful. Great.